The economic calendar is much busier in the second half of the trading week than in the first 3 days. Earlier this week, traders paused for thought, getting ready for a market boost. The focal point is certainly the G20 summit in Osaka, where Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are expected to hold talks. Apart from the summit, we are going to tell you about macroeconomic data in the video calendar on InstaForex TV channel. Early tomorrow, Germany is due to release flash data on consumer inflation for June. The previous report posted a decline in consumer prices following a sudden surge in April. Now, analysts expect a flat reading for June in annual terms with a 1.4% increase. If the forecast comes true, it will hardly change market sentiment on the euro. Traders are anticipating a report of major importance from the United States GDP for the first quarter. The revised data is likely to confirm flash estimates that the US economy expanded 3.1% on a quarterly basis. It would be the first welcome news on the US economy. However, the market already priced in the positive data after publication of the first and second estimates. On Friday, the UK will provide final data on the gross domestic product. The consensus suggests that the UK economy accelerated to a pace of growth to 1.8% on a yearly basis. Amid waning investment but growing consumer and public spending, the news could encourage traders, thus propelling a short-term rise of the pound sterling. During the European trade market, sentiment on the euro-dollar pair will depend on preliminary data on the eurozone's consumer inflation for June. Like in Germany, analysts expect headline inflation to grow at the same annual rate of 1.2% as in May. It will confirm the trend of subdued inflation that is viewed as a negative sign for the European economy. Such inflation could be the reason for brief sell-offs of the euro ahead of macroeconomic data from the United States. Experts assume an increase in personal spending in the United States. This indicator is seen as a barometer of health of the US economy, as consumer spending accounts for almost 2/3 of the US GDP. Experts project the indicator to rise 0.5%. However, if the actual data is worse than the forecast, that is a common situation recently, the US dollar will lose ground again. Thus, the euro-dollar pair will make a correctional decline to the level of the early session on Friday. Apart from the above said events, it would be a good idea to take notice of the following reports. Tomorrow, Japan will present metrics on retail sales. The United States is going to publish data on the construction sector. Friday will be packed with the market-moving events. Japan will provide both national CPI and Tokyo CPI, as well as a report on industrial production. However, investors will be riveted to the news from the G20 summit that will kick off in Osaka. The agenda includes trade conflicts and prospects of the global economy. On the same day, Canada will report on its GDP for the first quarter that will enable investors to judge on economic conditions in this country. You are watching Forex Trader Calendar on InstaForex TV channel with me, Kate Stichina. We wish you profitable deals.